Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander Tactical. Now, I want to talk about something today which is a piece of equipment that I have used over the last couple of years. It was actually the first chest rig that I bought when I started to really kind of get into my gear. So what we're here today to look at is the Tasmanian Tiger chest rig Mark II. A little bit of history around the chest rig, I guess, before we get into this. So, chest rig mainly is a load carrying solution, predominantly nowadays for things like ammunition and any sort of tools or certain things that you want to carry with you. Now, the history behind it actually goes back for quite some time. You can check certain historical records and the likes of Blackbeard the Pirateer. He had a similar style harnessed chest rig that looped onto his belt, and he had dual flintlock pistols in it, so he could get easy access to those whenever he needed to probably kill some English merchants, probably. Anyway, but it was a very rudimentary form of the harnesses or the chest rigs that we know today. Fast forward to the Vietnam era, and the North Vietnamese Army, the NVA, were using their Type 56 chest rig, which was a Chinese-made canvas-style rig that went across the front, and they were able to store 7 or 8 AK magazines in the front there. Now, a lot of the US Army men would, let's just say, borrow them once they'd found some, mainly because of the ease in which they could get access to their ammunition, especially considering a lot of the equipment they were using was all built around the Alice system back then. And then you kind of fast forwarding, scrolling through time, the Rhodesians started, which is, you'll find that a lot of these are either called chest rigs, a lot of them will call it a Rhodesian chest rig or Rhodesian harness as well, which is where really we get close to the modern equivalent of these. Some of them I know, especially with London Bridge Trading Company, so they have a split rig on the front, which will make it easier should you need to go prone and you can open them up, whereas Tasmanian Tiger for these opted for the traditional style full access on the front, so this doesn't open and you can get into it from behind. So there's a little bit of history. Now what I'll do is, I usually say at this point I'll turn the camera around, so yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe and all of that sort of stuff. Roll the intro bit and then let's take a closer look at the Tasmanian Tiger chest rig Mark II. Now, as we usually do, we'll go through some materials, some colours, and then we'll have a look around the actual chest, the chest rig itself. So as far as materials, Tasmanian Tiger really want to make sure that the highest quality out there for their products, and they really do stand by that. So it's all genuine Cordura. All of the push tabs on here are really strong push tabs. Actually the YKK zippers on here are the new RC, which are the reverse coil YKK zippers, which also make them, they make it a little bit stronger, but also the way that the teeth are stitched in makes it more reliable and more, well, definitely more stronger than the previous version. Although let's face it, YKK, as far as zippers are concerned, they make great zippers. All of the plastic, all of the hardware on this are Woojin buckles. If you're new to Woojin buckles, they're right up there with your Duraflex and all of those other, the ITW Nexus and all of those. In the 2 years that I've had this, I've certainly not had any issues or any sort of reliability worries about the Woojin buckles that are on here. Hook and loop, which, at the end of the day, it's hook and loop. It's the old-fashioned hook and loop, rather than those new weird kind of little kind of shark's teeth ones. But yeah, again, absolutely no worries. And in the time that I've been using this, I feel that I do, you rip it off quite a lot. 2 years now, I wouldn't say it's got to that place where it gets a bit fuzzy and you need to start kind of shaving it back, and then you lose some of your retention with it. As far as the colours are concerned, they come in the standard kind of colours. So you have your coyote, you have the olive drab, this is the OD version, there is black, and there is also a multicam version as well. Then there is separately, which Tasmanian Tiger do, so you have an OD green, which is a version that we have here, but then they also have the IRR OD green as well. So certainly if you're running night ops or that sort of stuff, you want to make sure that you can blend in with foliage, which is the main reason that they've got that IR version. Then you can pick up one of those as well. An extra little point is, so there are, I suppose actually, yeah, you know, there are two versions of this. Okay, so this is what we'll class as the standard version. This is the chest rig Mark II, but there is also a chest rig Mark II M4 variant. So hopefully you'll be able to see on the front here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 magazine pouches. On this standard version, they're a little bit wider, and obviously you can get 4 on here. So in that space you can fit M4, you can fit a SIG, you can fit the AUG, you can fit you can fit M14, and you can fit also the G36 magazines. AK fit in here as well. With that bend, you just have to kind of get them in and get the top covers around it, but you can fit those in as well, because you've just got that extra little bit more space within each of the pockets. The M4 variant will have 5 pockets across the front, so that you can fit 5, or at least you've got 5 rows, and you can double stack the magazines on each of these. So when your magazines are in, you have a Velcro tab across the front to make sure that they're held in place, and then you can easily pull them out. In that one, I just happen to have one in that one at the moment, but the one next to it, so I have 2 magazines. Your standard M4 style magazines fit in there perfectly. If you run a longer one, or if you run some of the plastic style ones, I forgot what the colour they're, the P-mags, I always get the letters mixed up. But if you run those, and should they sit a little bit higher, as you can do with most of these, I'll just get this back in my pocket, as you can do with most of these style rigs. So your retention flap on the front here has hook and loop, so this can stay locked in on the front, and you can rip that up should you need to. But then on the inside there is also additional hook and loops, so that you can either remove this. Now if you wanted to, and you wanted to run like a bungee style system, you can certainly do that. It doesn't come as part and parcel of this harness, but I think every single manufacturer, including Tasmanian Tiger, make the Velcro tabs that you can put onto the back of these, and then you get all of the little bungees and those little kind of pinch tabs. It will then hook onto the Molle, or at least the PALS webbing here on the front, so that you can set that up. But if you did need to run something that was slightly higher, all you need to do is just pull this out, move it up a little bit more, so now when the mags go back in there, then it will give it a little bit more reach over. Now with the M4 mags that are in here, these generally fit perfect out of the box. It's set up so that it's at the rough height that you need for these style magazines. Whereas with AK, with these ones, you will definitely have to lift this up a little bit more, so that you can fit it over the magazines when they're in there as well. And I will say, so the hook and loop, you know, it is particularly noisy. If you're concerned about that, then having that bungee cord system, I suppose it's pros and cons, isn't it? It does allow a little bit more debris to get in there, but with the bungee system, it's not as loud as these. But I guess in certain situations, if you're going loud anyway, you're not necessarily going to need to worry about that noise. But yeah, so everything is double stackable. Within the pockets, there isn't any organisation between each of the stacks. So if you have one in, you just have to make sure you pull that over and cinch it down just a little bit to stop it from rattling around. But when there's one in there, certainly haven't had any worries going full send and anything poking out through the side or anything coming out. The straps that go over here are roughly I'll have to measure it. It's definitely, it's probably about 35 millimeters to closer to 50 millimeters. So that's 1.5 inches to 2 inches to make sure that whatever's in there is locked into place. So yeah. So you have your 4 on the front. There is a small gap in between these. So rather than having these as separate pouches, hopefully you can see here, so there is a large molle panel across the front with your PALS webbing on there so that you can attach things, or you can take things off, or you can do whatever you want. A small morale strip here if you want to put a morale patch or your name on there as well. But in between them, so rather than the ones that have the individual ones where you can see that there are 4 slots and then you have sections in between, closer to this really on the side where you've got that kind of void in between. The molle panel goes all the way across, and you do have a little void in the middle here. I've not really used that void because there's no sort of retention in there. There's no PALS webbing. There's nothing. But I guess if you're good with the needle, then maybe you could put some hook and loop maybe in there, or even stitch something through there that you could have one of those bungee retention systems on there. So if you had a flashlight or something that you just wanted to have easy access to, then you could set up those in between. Not specifically designed for that, however, it is something that you could use that space should you need to. Now I have left this one on the left hand side here, or my left hand side, out while I've been talking to these. What you'll hopefully have noticed is that there is nothing on here as far as pistol magazine pouches, which I think is a slight shame. I think it would have been good maybe if they'd have moved these back just a little bit. So these are roughly about 1 litre. You can fit 1 litre bottles into each of these side pouches. Had these just shifted back maybe 1 inch, then it would have allowed maybe a molle, some PALS webbing to go down the side, which would be really useful to be able to then maybe put a tourniquet on one side, or you could have a flashlight on one side and you could have a magazine or something on this side, which I think is a shame. My solution for that, so on the inside here I run some of these little hook and loop mag pouches. These are from Tasmanian Tiger as well. What you can do is you can completely take your retention strap off. Stuck to my finger then for a second, and because this is hook on the back and it's loop on the inside here, as long as you push that forward as you're putting it in, then it will give you access to 2 magazines, which again, bungee cord, easy to release, and then you've got access to those. Now obviously with that it will then reduce down the amount of options that you've got for magazines. I picked up this version mainly so that I've got the option to run different calibers and different style magazines, but with the M4 variant this will also fit into the M4 variant, where you'll then have 8 M4 magazines rather than 6 that you would have with this. Onto the side, if I just turn this around slightly, both of these pockets are identical as well, by the way. You have double zips, so dependent on how you want to run this, whether you prefer to pull from the back or the front. And this one, so within here there is an additional little mesh pocket, perfect for Altoid tins or any sort of rifling tools or like that. You can fit a small pouch into here, but also on the inside you have more PALS webbing, so that if you need to make sure that there's something in here that stays in place, then you can put that in there as well. Now, there isn't a specific section on here for a pistol, which you often find with these style rigs, but should you need to, and you wanted to run it there, because there is the PALS webbing on the inside, you can put a magazine in here. It will easily fit a Glock 17 pistol into this. There's plenty enough space. If I put my hand in there, goes all the way down, so you can fit a pistol in there should you require. There is also a D-ring on the side as well, so if you have a tether to your pistol, or even if you've just got some keys or another tool that you use a lot, that you find that you drop a lot, then there's a little bit more retention so that you can make sure that that tool doesn't go missing. As I say, exactly the same on the other side. In this one at the moment, in this one, oh Yeah, so I've got my hat in here, but you know, plenty of room. Now, as this stands, this really is just being run as a chest rig, but should you need a solution so that you can have more protection on the front as well, you can adapt this. Now, donning and doffing, so on the right hand side here there are two buckles, and once you've done the bottom one you can undo both of them to take them off, but I find that other one right underneath your armpit's quite difficult to be able to get back in, whereas the bottom one, when you take it off, I find if you just give it a bit of a pull so it gives you a little bit more slack, then you can put that on and then pull it tight once it's on as well. You can run a minimal plate carrier underneath this as well, should you want to have it over the top of that as well, which, you know, there's still plenty of room, but being able to take it off, it's very easy to take off, and then once you've undone that bottom one you can then take it off over your head. Now I am just going to undo this one mainly because on the back panel here you have all of this mesh here to make sure that it gives you a little bit more breathability. Now, if anyone who's won a plate carrier for a prolonged period of time, there's just no way of being able to stop sweating. Personally, I prefer this because it's a smaller area that sits upon your chest or your back. There is an additional piece of kit that you can add to the back of this so that you can have a plate carrier on the back, and there's more molle and pals webbing on there as well. But on this one, so you have the mesh on either side, and then behind that there is actually a pocket. Now the way in which the pocket is used, so on the front we have 1, 2 and then 3, 4 here. So these press studs, so these poppers, you can undo, and what this does is then gives you access to a panel behind here. So within this pocket there are a couple of tabs that you can pull up, and then this will then turn into a plate carrier. Push the press studs back on, which I like wrestling with press studs, mainly because, you know, if you have to wrestle to put it on, then you're probably gonna have to wrestle to take it off. And then with each of these you then have another hook and loop tab. I won't do both of them, but generally what you would do is you would feed this through the webbing on the back of the strap. But just to save time, I'm not going to do that for now. But then yes, so you can have this on. Let's get back. Oh, I undid that other one, didn't I? I can't get that back on. But yes, so what this now gives you access to is a lot more pals webbing here at the top. So again, should you need to run anything across here, then you can do that as well. But then behind here, you can now fit in your standard protection, 3A, whatever it is that you're using. Now across the shoulders, which I'm just going to take this off for a second so I can do this back up. So the shoulder padding on this, you have really nice, comfortable shoulder padding. On the front you have additional loops on here, so should you need to be able to run comms through some of these, then you can do. You can run this from the pockets on the side, but if you have the rear panel on this and run it across your shoulder, it's probably a better use of the space on here as well. And also if you're running a hydration system as well, that can go straight across your shoulder either side, and then you have additional little straps as well that you can pass that through to make sure that it stays in place when you've got it on. On the rear, this uses an H harness setup, which personally I found is very comfortable. Rather than having an X or a Y style harness, because you then have 4 points of connection that spreads the load, I suppose, a little bit more evenly across your body. I certainly haven't found that there's any warm spots or there's any areas that have been giving me any sort of grief, or I've felt that it's been rubbing whilst I've had it on. I've worn this all through the summer, especially on hot days, and yeah, you get hot. I'd be lying to you if I said that this was some sort of revolutionary system that stops you from sweating, but certainly in the time that I've had it and the amount that I sweat, I am quite a bit of a sweaty Betty. I've not found that I've had any sore spots whatsoever from wearing this at all. Now the shoulder straps are thin enough, or at least they are just right, so that if you wanted to put a backpack on over the top of this, or as I mentioned before, if you wanted to run a plate carrier underneath this, then they will fit over a plate carrier as well. As I mentioned, there is also a rear panel that you can do to this. Now for that one, what you'll do is you'll take off the H harness, and then the two shoulder straps here then connect onto that so that it fits similarly to a traditional style plate carrier, where it will go over, and then on the back of that, should you need more tools or whatever it is that you're carrying, you can put a plate into that to give you additional protection. These two side pockets will also fit lateral protection as well, again should you want to run something like that as well. Now I do have to say, in the time that I have run this, it still is my first chest rig. I've done a lot in this. I'd like to think that I've put it through the wars over the last 2 years. As far as its build quality is concerned, it's almost like new. Now I say almost, mainly that's because on the front here, having done quite a few bits where I've gone prone, that I've got some ground in mud. Now when I wash this, I just wash it with soap and water. I certainly don't put it into the washing machine to wash this. But I think if I did, I could probably get off some of this ground in mud. But other than that, we don't have any frays. We don't. None of the material has started to wear on this. Now I will probably say that I don't put this through as rigorous testing as some of you may possibly do if you've been stationed with a rig like this, and I certainly take that into account. But what I will say is that Tasmanian Tiger really go to the next level to make sure that their kit is as reliable as possible. Now while we're at this, it's probably a good point to mention, so I'm a Tasmanian Tiger ambassador here in the UK. However, I have an amazing relationship with them. Should I hate this, then I would genuinely tell you that I hate this. However, I've just grown really attached to this. I have a few other chest rigs, mainly because I like to change things up through the day depending on what I'm running for that day, what sort of training that I'm going into, or what sort of training that I want to test myself with. But I do still come back to this, and I thought it would be a great starter for Moorlander Tactical, really, to start on a chest rig that certainly has meant a lot to me. Again, full disclosure, although I do get sent quite a lot of Tasmanian Tiger gear for free to review, this was actually purchased with my own money. So take that as you will. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed today's piece of content. If you have any questions, as I've built with Moorlander EDC, I want to make sure that I can build a great community here on Moorlander Tactical. I'll leave a link below so that you can see more from Moorlander EDC, which is my other channel. But if you have any questions, please feel free to put your questions below, and yeah, I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. And yeah, so I will be bringing you more on the different chest rigs that I have. I have 2 or 3 other Tasmanian Tiger ones. Also have a couple of plate carriers from them as well, which I'll bring you some content on too. So yeah, now all of those links will be below. I'll leave some of my social media links below, but for now, as always, stay Moorlander, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay tactical. I'm not used to that yet. It's usually stay safe, stay Moorlander, stay EDC. That was why I messed that up at the end. Damn it! I'm just gonna leave it in. You'll see some of my bloopers. Oh, stay tuned. There's some bloopers. I also tend to waffle a bit, which is this little bit towards the end as well. But yes, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay tactical. I did it right that time. That sounded a lot better. Rudy Green. This is the tan version, although it does look quite green. I think that's just mainly because I've got, no, sorry, I'm being a div. This is the orange. What a dick. You're a cock. Start again. So as we usually do, we'll go through some materials, and then we'll, you know, colours and stuff, and we'll have a look around the actual chest rig itself. Now, as far as colours are concerned, oh, actually no, sorry, I forgot to mention, no. Now, as we usually do, we'll go through some materials, we'll go through some colours, and then we'll have a look at how this actually functions. So very quickly, as far as colours are concerned, no, you keep doing it. Stop it. Have a word with yourself. Now, as we usually do, we'll go through some materials, some colours, and then we'll have a look around the actual chest. Shoot. Hi, I'm the Moorlander, and this is Moorlander Tactical. Now, today I just want to talk about something that I've been using now for a good couple of years, and yeah, I don't know what I was going to say. What was I going to say? I was going to talk about the titties. Stupid plant. Shh, I'm going to have to move that plant out of the way, aren't I? Do one another jockey.